Workplace bullies don't yell, but they do. Again, workplace bullying is different from childhood bullying. The reason there are laws against childhood bullying is it's so easy to define. Children are sloppy and artless, and their bullying techniques are over the top and in your face, ranging from outright physical violence to overt name calling, and including shouting. Workplace bullying is partly by definition bullying among adults. Workplace bullies are physically at least adults, and though they possess absolutely no spiritual awareness or knowledge, otherwise known as wisdom, and are by definition unconscious, they are not stupid. They will never do or say anything that can get them into trouble, that can get them fired or worse, arrested. Their techniques are more subtle and open to subjective interpretation, so you can never call the bullies on their behavior. So all of the yelling and shouting and screaming that people associate with workplace bullying simply does not happen. Don't get me wrong, if the company is small enough and the boss himself is a bully, there are plenty of shouting matches, but I find more often, in my experience, just as workplace bullies find ways to be physically violent in the workplace without actually engaging in physical violence, they do the same with yelling. When I say yelling in the workplace, I'm talking about something that sounds more like voice raising. Workplace bullies may raise their voices to a very high volume. They can adopt a very harsh, strident, and severe tone that's very curt and terse. And especially in the case of women workplace bullies, they can engage in high-pitched shrieking. And whatever is said at a very loud or high-pitched volume is often repeated. There are primarily two reasons workplace bullies raise their voices. The first one is very simple. The workplace bully just needs the target's attention. Why does the bully need the target's attention? Well, as workplace bullies often do, the bully is combining techniques. He is combining yelling with another workplace bullying technique, the technique of insults. The bully is trying to insult the target. Because bullies are cowards who are weak, they never act alone. So he is trying to insult the target together with another bully at a physical distance from the target, and just needs to make sure the target hears the insult. After the insult is delivered, the bully will most likely turn to the target with a massive grin of delight and glee on his face. Because bullying is an addiction, the bully has just gotten a fix of his drug hurting innocent people. But more than attention-seeking behavior, I find that the explosive outbursts of voice raising that take place in the workplace are a classic example of narcissistic rage. Though some may disagree with me, I maintain that workplace bullying is a form of narcissistic abuse because the parallels between narcissistic personality disorder and workplace bullying are astonishing. Narcissism is on a continuum, so it comes in degrees, but all bullies have narcissistic tendencies. Narcissists feel one emotion and one emotion only, and that's rage. A narcissist is fundamentally an empty shell with no real internal life or self, and that internal reality has been replaced by the thin, superficial veneer of the narcissistic ego. And the narcissistic ego is whatever the narcissist needs you to believe about him and what he believes about himself. But it's a house of cards. It's incredibly fragile, and it needs constant supply or attention. And because the narcissist is disconnected from the universe, the narcissist has to source that supply exclusively from other people. Because the ego is all the narcissist has, if the ego is not receiving supply, it can feel literally life-threatening. In fact, all workplace bullying is an attempt to eliminate someone who has posed a threat to the narcissistic ego by not providing narcissistic supply. The narcissistic ego is a false self. In other words, it's fake, and you're probably not feeling it. But if you've ever seen a narcissist rage, the demon beast comes out and rears its ugly head, and that's when you say to yourself, oh, that's the monster that you really are. Why do narcissists rage? Well, the mask is slipping, and the narcissist is about to be exposed. Workplace bullies don't get literally physically violent, but they do behave in physically violent ways. And the physical violence and the voice raising are both expressions of aggression. All aggression arises out of fear. When workplace bullies raise their voices, they are afraid of exposure. Exposure of what? Anything that makes them look less than perfect. It could be work-related. It could be you have uncovered some flaw or error in their work, or simply questioned their work. More often, as with all workplace bullying, it has nothing to do with the work. It could be related to the bully's ethics or lack thereof. Workplace bullying is not illegal, but it's definitely unethical. And if they're not above bullying you, then what else are they up to? I think workplace bullying is the tip of the iceberg. It's a slippery slope. It's the gateway drug, the marijuana, to other unethical and even illegal behaviors. In my exhaustive experience with workplace bullying, I've witnessed substance abuse, sometimes in the workplace, all the cheating, adultery, and extramarital affairs, people who use sex to manipulate themselves into positions of power, oldest trick in the book, and infractions ranging from smoking in the workplace, which is illegal, to outright graft. Workplace bullies cook the books and cheat and defraud companies out of thousands of dollars. And some of the most toxic and hostile behavior I have experienced in the workplace comes from people who are up to no good and maybe in violation of the law. Often it's so personal and petty, it's just cringeworthy. The bully is just embarrassed, and it's usually about something related to the physical body. He spent too much time in the bathroom, he's having an outbreak of cold sores or acne, or he farted. If someone hears you fart, you may be embarrassed, but you don't feel the need to erupt in a violent explosion of rage. Workplace bullies do. They are incredibly thin-skinned and care way too much about what other people think of them. When workplace bullies raise their voices, I find the timing is off. It's either preemptive or after the fact. The loud, violent, aggressive explosion or eruption of narcissistic rage may occur one day after you see the bully leave the bathroom after an hour, 1 week after you see the bully with a cold sore, or months after you ask the bully a question about how she was promoted to a position of authority for which she was completely unqualified. Workplace bullies are passive-aggressive. When they raise their voices, they are retaliating against the target for exposing them, threatening to expose them, or just doing or saying anything that the bullies can't control. If you are not a bully, you are a decent human being, and you don't particularly enjoy or take any pleasure or delight in pointing out other people's flaws. A bully is, by definition, someone who needs to put down other people in order to feel good about himself. In fact, bullying is the only way the bully can feel good about himself or feel good at all, because he hates himself. If you don't hate yourself, there are many other ways you can feel good about yourself or feel good, period. If you are aware of the bully's flaws, you don't say anything to the bully or anyone else. You wouldn't dream of engaging in workplace bullying techniques like staring, eye rolling, or ridicule. You don't even have it in you. You're trying your best not to let on that you know, but they know you know. I have a theory that most targets of workplace bullying are the most sensitive people in the workplace. You may be an empath or highly sensitive person, or at the very least, intuitive. You may have no intention of doing anything with the information that you have, but workplace bullies are master projectors. They enjoy using other people's shortcomings against them, and so they assume that you are the same. A final point I want to make about yelling or voice raising is that, like all workplace bullying techniques, workplace bullies think it's totally normal. Pretty much everything about workplace bullying is at best disturbing, but perhaps the weirdest thing about it is that workplace bullies seem to expect the target find their behavior just as acceptable as they do. Afterward, they come back as though nothing has happened, everything's fine, and we're friends. Raising your voice is pretty much unacceptable in any situation unless the other person is hard of hearing or you're trying to save their life. But for workplace bullies, it's normal because of where they learned it. As with physical violence, when workplace bullies raise their voices, they are only exposing their own toxic, dysfunctional families of origin and childhood abuse. With no boundaries, workplace bullies erroneously conflate work and family, but work is not family. If you're ever in an interview and someone says to you, quote, "we're like family," that person may not necessarily be a bully, but has horrible boundaries. So you have my permission to drop everything, get up, and leave. Run for the hills. So that's an introduction to the workplace bullying technique of yelling. To read more in detail, I've written an essay on workplace bullying. It's on my website. That information is in the description. The reason I do these videos is not to get subscribers, although that would be nice, but instead to create a forum where targets of workplace bullying can share their experiences and stories in a kind of support group. There are two primary benefits to a support group. Number one, to know that you are not crazy. Workplace bullying is real and your feelings are valid and justified. And number two, to know you are not alone. Unfortunately, there are countless others who have experienced the same thing. So I look forward to reading your comments, and I promise to try to respond to each one. Take care.